Hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of Eye on Port. It is proudly brought to you by GOIL Company Limited, also Serene Insurance. So we advise that if you do trading, international trading, Serene Insurance is your best insurer. Also, Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, the Ghana Revenue Authority are all proud sponsors of this program. The Business and Financial Times is a media partner for this program. So if you get a copy of the Thursday edition of every Business and Financial Times that you get the Thursday edition, you should read a lot more about the maritime and port industry in that paper. Also, tomorrow at 8:30 p.m., that's Monday at 8:30 p.m. on GH1, an abridged version of this program is aired on there. And on Ghana television, on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. An abridged version of the program is there. Folks, this week we're going to look a little behind, take a look at 2020, and look at how far we've come from January up until this December that we are in, and assess the port and maritime environment, assess the trading environment, the international trading environment, how have we done as a country, and then we'll play some small footage for you to look, a small piece for you to look at how far we have come. Some of the things you may have forgotten and all of that, but the piece will bring that kind of refreshment to you. And then we will look more into the future. So 2021, what is up there when it comes to international trading in the year 2021. We'll take a look at that, the dynamics, the continental free trade, how the market is going to open and all of that, and what we can do to assess it. If you are in the international trade business, this is very important. My guest is seated already. When we return from the break, Eye on Port.
Every now and again, GOIL makes good things happen. This time, GOIL has introduced Super XP Ron 95, a higher grade fuel loaded with additives and yet sold at the same price as normal fuel. GOIL Super XP Ron 95 enhances engine performance like never before. It maintains the engine by keeping it clean from carbon deposits. GOIL Super XP Ron 95 is designed to burn slowly and thus improves fuel economy, making you save money after several kilometers. GOIL Super XP Ron 95 gives you a smooth driving experience, that is, less vibrations. Fill up with GOIL Super XP Ron 95. Now there's no need to pay more for any higher grade fuel. GOIL has that sorted. GOIL, good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Oh, how are you?
Hi Yvonne, a few words please. Everyone is talking about the fire at your production house last week. How are you holding up? Has production stalled?
No, not at all. My crew and everyone on my set is perfectly fine because I insure with Serene Insurance. As a matter of fact, I've had all my equipment replaced, including the vehicles that were affected. My workers have been sorted out. Even my production downtime has been covered. So it's all good. I have a meeting to attend to, so I have to get going. Sorry about that.
Which insurance company did you mention?
Serene Insurance, the new face of insurance, a member of First Sky Group.
Sa coronavirus yare no yare a sign pa. So baby, na se opo wagu so ana se obinti gu so a utumenya yare ni bi.
Okadi ni bahani onaka oyehila ekoji. Ohe banye do. Oba wulo. Ogo bahunu. Oba chine. O jamba wohe. Oba na sen kaka. Mekme musunchon. Mekme nuni enihe. Chitomo boni nke je mo femo ba chon okadi na eko.
Coronavirus infection
The symptoms can range from mild, one of it being asymptomatic. Asymptomatic just means that you may not have any symptoms at all, and the disease process can gradually worsen to be a severe form, the severest being ultimately death.
We are expected to sanitize our hands when our hands are not visibly soiled or you can't really see dirt on your hands. If you can see dirt on your hands, the best thing to do is to wash your hands with soap and the running water.
If you're using any of the cloth face masks, always make sure you have a rubber bag ready to receive it when you remove it, or you have a bowl of warm soapy water in which you can place the mask and wash. Wash your mask, dry in the hot sun for at least 5 hours, and apply heat by way of ironing.
Utiliser les ports de Tema et de Takoradi, c'est avoir un traitement rapide et sécurisé de vos marchandises diverses en conteneurs, en sac ou en vrac, ainsi que tous vos véhicules en transit. Le Ghana a construit un parking bien pavé pour tous les véhicules en transit. Une nouvelle gare frigorifique pour le stockage de la marchandise congelée en transit. Avec un nouveau centre de traitement de données construit et la mise en œuvre efficace d'un guichet unique national qui permet aux données d'être accessibles par tous les intervenants, le traitement des dossiers dans les ports du Ghana est maintenant efficace et plus efficient. Utiliser les ports du Ghana, c'est profiter des systèmes de portes électroniques et d'exploitation des terminaux ainsi que de la réservation des navires en ligne, entraînant ainsi un parc de camions fiable pour un acheminement de vos marchandises dans les brefs délais avec un suivi satellitaire jusqu'à nos frontières.
Les femmes, à vous les honneurs.
Les ports de Tema et de Takoradi célèbrent la femme. Que les bienfaits de cette célébration apportent plus de bénédictions.
Our dear staff and cherished clients, the year 2020 has been particularly challenging for us all. We have navigated turbulent times and our collective efforts have yielded great results. We would like to extend our warmest Christmas wishes to you and your families. Thank you for your dedication and commitment to our shared goals. Please unplug, relax, and settle into an enjoyable holiday season. May the coming year bring us better tidings. Afishapo.
Papa Noyo, Boniko, Afia tuya ye dini pepe. Afia tuya ye dini pepe. Afia tuya. Hip hip hip, hooray!
Merry Christmas! Happy Shabbat!
All our stakeholders, the management of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, our shipping agents, all other workers who have worked through the port in the course of the year, a very Merry Christmas and a very prosperous New Year.
And GOIL Company Limited, I should say, has been giving thanks to the Lord for a prosperous year, that's 2020, and looking forward to a prosperous future, that's 2021.
Ghana's leading oil marketing company, GOIL, has held a Thanksgiving service in Accra to thank God for His grace and blessings throughout the year 2020. The Thanksgiving ceremony was a joyful and prayer-filled one that brought together members of staff, management and board members, including the chairman, Kwame Nabatels. In ministration were the General Overseer of the Assemblies of God Church, Reverend Dr. Paul Frimpong Manson, and the General Overseer of the Global Revival Ministries, Reverend Dr. Robert Ampia Kofi. The Chief Operating Officer of GOIL, Alex Aziu, recounted that despite the challenges of COVID-19, God's faithfulness has led GOIL to steady its ship to stay afloat in business.
By the grace of God as well, even though our finances were very hard hit, thankfully, lots of organizations who were indebted to GOIL for no apparent reason, I believe it is as a result of a lot of prayer in GOIL, started paying up. So the board management, the staff, stakeholders of GOIL want to use this unique opportunity to thank God as the first oil marketing company and express our deepest gratitude to God for how far He has brought us.
The Managing Director of GOIL and Group CEO, Kwame Osei-Prempeh, praised God for listening to prayers of staff and management of GOIL for the company's sustainability.
I can say that God has manifested Himself, His greatness in this effort.
It is right, it is good, it is pleasant. God appreciates the thanksgiving of His people.
In a related development, the leading oil marketing company, GOIL, continues to reward its customers for keeping faith with the brand this far. To this end, GOIL is giving away some items to its cherished customers across all 89 service stations in the Greater Accra region this festive season for the loyalty shown to the indigenous company throughout the year 2020. GOIL across the various stations is distributing food items like rice, oil, canned fish, meat, breakfast items, GOIL branded souvenirs, African cloth, first aid kits, GOIL lubricants, and even free fuel. At the Bema Camp GOIL service station, staff of GOIL engaged motorists and urged them not to only continue to patronize the company's product for quality, but also do so as a patriotic gesture. A similar gesture was extended to the 37 service station, where customers benefited from several giveaways.
We are running our end of year promo activities in all our 89 stations in Accra. The reason why we are doing this promo is to give back to our loyal customers. We are urging every customer to pass through our station because we have quality fuel.
Welcome back to the studio. We are going to discuss how we can position this country for effective trading in the year 2021. So starting January 2021, when the entire continent will start trading together in one largest market. My guest in the studio is Nana Osei-Bonsu. He is the CEO, Private Enterprise Federation. Nana, pleasure to have you in the studio. Good evening. Today, your friend is not with us, Carlos. So we'll also take a look at some bit of the year 2021. And maybe I'll begin with that with you, Nana. Kindly look back for us. And as I said, towards the end, we will play back a review, a short piece reviewing the year 2020. But from your perspective, from the perspective of businesses and enterprises, how was the year 2020?
Very difficult. COVID.
Prior to that?
Prior to that, we only had 2 months.
We had
January and
up to
February.
March.
Yes, even February
early March
were not that great anyway, and then COVID hit in March.
Yeah.
And it destroyed almost everything. And businesses are still reeling under the impact of COVID.
When there's some positives for businesses in there within COVID, nonetheless.
Not really. Other than maybe what the government was trying to provide for
the
businesses,
relief packages here.
Yeah, you know, to recover from the impact of the COVID. Other than that, it is all downhill, because either you release your employees or you keep them at the detriment of holding on to your capital, which was very difficult for businesses to do. So 2020 will go down as one of the most difficult periods in the Ghanaian business area, because we didn't have much to do.
I see.
Much to do in the sense of trading went down, incomes went down, no positive sight of when is it going to end.
Yeah.
You know, I said that the other day when I was here, that businesses operate in certainty and predictability, and knowing that we plan. It's not like we get up tomorrow morning and you do everything. And because of the COVID and the fact that we didn't have the analysis that will give us a headway that is going to end tomorrow, is going to end in 6 months. So like they say in the tree parlance, you know, that didn't give business the confidence to do. As I speak, still the same. And even though business are trying every which ways to make sure that they survive. Now, this is a surviving mode. It's not a matter of even continuing to do business as usual. So 2020 had been the most difficult.
And are there lessons that we can take away from there? You know, sort of, one would say that has it now taught us the lesson to prepare ourselves for any shock or all other unforeseen factors?
I think it woke us up, a rude awakening that we thought we were doing all right, but we should definitely have a plan. And the plan normally is prescribed by policy. The policy of government, sometimes devoid of private sector input. And even though it's going to affect private sector, the government thinks that this is the way we're going to go and that's how it's going to be. So this is a rude awakening for government to look back and say, okay, how do we bring these partners in? Not listening to them is not the way to go. Listen to private sector, provide the avenues for them to be able to do. Because now that we come in the next topic, we're going to talk about the continental free trade. It's not only Ghanaian private sector. It's going to be almost the world private sector coming to town. And how do you let your citizens have a job, your citizens earn income, your citizens to accept to live within those conditions? What COVID brought to us is also allow private sector to realize that there's not much difference between domestic private sector and foreign private sector. So far, they all operate here. So it allows us to get together. Now, Private Enterprise Federation, which is almost the business council of all the private sector business associations and all, partnered with the American Chamber of Commerce, European Chamber of Commerce, the European business organizations, almost all the foreign business organizations, we all got together, review what the impact were, and then alerted government to the fact that we are hurting on access to credit, we are hurting in the cost of money, we are hurting trying to even manage our staff and employees, we are hurting on a health basis because, I mean, if people don't live and they're not healthy, they cannot come to work. And the transport system, the infrastructure, absence of infrastructure. And so we all realize that in actual fact, it affects all of us together. So the positive side that I can say for COVID is that it allows businesses to now think the same and come together to alert ourselves and address issues of interest to all of us.
Has it also awakened businesses in the line of how you contract, for instance, considering and putting into consideration issues of frustrations and all of that, so that in the future, if you get into contract without knowing or preparing for disasters and things like what we witnessed in 2020, now we will be more cautious in that direction?
Well, businesses have always, as I said earlier, operated in the area of certainty. If you're going to contract, you don't have much resources to set aside. You don't have the luxury of setting aside for tomorrow. You use everything that you have. What we need to do now is partner government and government partners and government listening that the policy they're putting together affects businesses left or right. How do they have an input? How do they structure the policy? Absence of adequate infrastructure, absence of adequate financial resources, the cost of doing business is so high and all. If we're now going to go into the arena to compete in the international market, then how do we position Ghanaians or Ghanaian businesses or local businesses to be able to compete in our own backyard, much more in the international arena, the African continent?
I see. Now, let's look into the future. So there's a lot of expectations, and we began talking about it last week here with the Continental Free Trade area from say next week. It says around the corner, I guess.
Yes, sir.
1st January going up. What are businesses taking into next year? What are our expectations for those who feel the ordinary businessman has heard a lot probably about AFTA here and there, but the understanding, what do I begin to do from 1st January and all of that?
I think the euphoria on the continental free trade to the Ghanaian business is like, oh, there's a market coming up, but do we know what it is? Have we even examined the impact on us in our local markets? Those are the areas that I think a lot has to be done between government and private sector, business associations, and all the individual businesses. What is the continental free trade about? That Ghana has liberalized about 90% of their trade tariffs. Now, those businesses, and this is very important statement, and I'm going to take my time to say it, those businesses in those 90 percentile that are being open to the international community in the African continent, are they aware?
Are who aware?
Are the businesses within those sectors aware that these sectors are being opened up to the sky's the limit to the other businesses from the other African countries? And if they're not, how do we position them? How do we then tell them if they are not going to be able to compete? No sweat about that. So those who cannot compete, what do we do to them? How do we support them? How do we move them to the higher terrain where they can possibly? If maybe there are about 25 businesses in agricultural sector doing tomatoes, can all of them survive? Or maybe link them together to form one entity, which maybe will create a formidable defense for them to be able to compete. We haven't done that. And this is where my fear is that.
But who should be doing that, Nana?
Well, it's, who signed the document?
You're expecting that from government?
I'm expecting a partnership between government and the private sector.
And you're not seeing that?
We've seen peripheral. We talk, CFTA. We talk about different structures, different organizations.
But on the ground?
On the ground, I can tell you for sure that a majority of the businesses that are going to be affected in the tariff liberalization don't know what's going to hit them.
I see. So let's take your organization, for instance, Private Enterprise Federation.
Correct.
You are saying that you haven't seen a proper grounds engagement with core business folks.
I've seen peripheral activities. There was GEPS, Ghana Export Promotion, going around the country, talking to people, talking to businesses, letting them know what is coming up. But what the businesses need, the technical competencies to add value, the resources that they need to do, the market that will be open, the financial resources that they need to support what they're going to do. Have we talked about that? Are we providing that? Now, the Private Enterprise Federation, as you said correctly, we have been given an endowment by a foreign agency, and we're going to go around the nation. What we want to do is maybe enlist your services through radio, TV, and others. Instead of talking to 300 people in a room, we go to Takoradi, we open it up in a market area with free advertising or free media, so people can hear and listen. And we come in with technical people who have been involved. Your business, if you are in this area, they're strong position. I can show you a graph where the 3 top countries, South Africa, Morocco, Egypt, and others, they are top in almost everything. If you take electricity in Ghana, it's the highest on the continent, the cost of electricity. If you take cost of credit, it's the highest on the continent. So how do our people participate? So now we have to talk to Bank of Ghana as to how the policy rate can influence the cost of money that the banks, the interest rate that the banks give to the businesses. So we have to alert the businesses that these are challenges that you're going to face. So if you are by yourself, and you know Kwesi and Amma also in the same industry on the left side, why don't we engage you guys to become partners, negotiated partnership? This way you can stand the competition instead of individual.
Because you mentioned earlier about 90% of our products, tariffs liberalizing. And I wonder how many regular business folks, now the woman who has been exporting textiles from Ghana to, let's say, Cameroon or Burkina Faso and all of that, or the other who has been exporting some cotton from Burkina Faso and all of that all throughout this period. How much of this information is available to her?
That is the question.
How does she know, how will she know that from January going, I can import I can import cotton from Burkina Faso without paying duty or tax. How can they know that from January, I can export through the ports of Ghana tons of textiles to Nigeria, for instance, without paying duty? That information ought to be available to the ground folks.
That is a general information, no duty. Everybody knows.
Yeah, but
how does it affect your business?
The product that I'm dealing with.
Is where I said that we haven't done much work. Because information and knowledge is critical for the businesses to know what they need to do. Information and knowledge is very important for them to know that, okay, do I move from this? Do I join somebody? Can I compete by myself? Can I reorganize my business in a way that I can take advantage of? The peripheral, even within my sector, those are the kind of information that we haven't done. CFTA is not going to affect every business. It's going to affect the 90 percentile that has been liberalized. What about the 10%? The 10% is not immediately. There are 3% out of the 10 that are also going to be forever not possibly being open to any competition. So how did the government determine which ones are good for them to keep within the 10 percentile that are not going to be liberalized, and then what determined the 90% where we possibly, I was looking at where we going to allow competition, then that means we are formidable. We can meet the competition. But do we? Even in our own backyards, we're talking about the foreign trade. In our own backyards, how much imports come in? We don't have, we don't do value addition for the kind of things that we need. So instead of the euphoria looking at the trading outside of Ghana, let's trade within Ghana. First, capture the Ghanaian market to the tilt. So anybody coming, we're not scared because we have fine-tuned our processes and procedures. We have the resources. We have the technical, three things that we don't have. The infrastructure, technical skills and competencies, and the average cost of money. These three things, unless we put them in order, we're not going to be able to compete. The cost of money, I said, we're the highest in the continent. The cost of electricity, we're the highest in the continent. Now, if you add those two, how do you add value? As supply chain and resources in abundance. In every town, village, you have BRIPRO, that it means the resources are going waste. How do we channel this into proper delivery mechanisms that they don't go to waste? When we talk about Ghana economy, agriculture number one, then now services and industrialization, or industries. When we talk about industries, people think that we add in value. Industry percentage basically because of the mining, the extractive industries. If you talk about manufacturing itself, we're not doing that much.
I see.
So now in abundance of agriculture products, 44.5% from the previous census of Ghanaian families are involved in agriculture. That's huge. That is way too much. And so how do we position ourselves at a few, 10%, 20% in agriculture that can feed us all with excesses for the businesses and all? So those are the kind of things that we need to do. Not that they haven't done something, but to me, it's not enough.
No, but and that's pretty scary coming from you. Well, one is not expecting that right from January 1, everybody begin to rush for something.
Yes.
It's a process.
Thank you.
It's a whole process. It's not just an event.
Yes.
And so probably those folks who are in charge listening will begin to put their acts together.
We
and
have
all.
to.
But the thing is that if we've got about 4 or 5 days barely into starting trading, and you see from where you sit, and it's very huge where you sit, you see that we haven't put our house together when it comes to maximizing our own area, let alone taking care of what is out there. That's pretty scary.
Yeah, that is the part that I disagree on, the policy of emphasizing on exports, because the local market is available. And we haven't taken control of that.
How do you want us to take control of the local market? Probably they assume that we are in control.
Let me give you one. Tomatoes coming from Burkina, okay? Can't we do the same? Can't we grow them here? They say the variety.
Like what, tomatoes or onions that's coming from
Côte d'Ivoire? The Boko area is called the red tomatoes. The name is actually called Boko Red. It used to come from that angle. We abdicated. We're now importing from Côte d'Ivoire and Burkina. Now, tomatoes are also coming from there. How can we not put money in there and do that? Some years back, TechnoServe did a research that if we spend $200 million a year for 2.5 years, 3 years, we will cut the imports of poultry to almost zero. Did we do that? No, because and we import how many? Over 300 million a year. So how could you not do a policy and attack that industry that within the next 2.5 years, we're going to be self-sufficient in that? If you take various sectors, we're not self-sufficient in many of those things that we use every day in and day out. So instead of jumping, and as you said, it's not just an event. It's a continuous process. Instead of doing that, let's think through which ones do we have the basis and the basics that we can add value and control the market. I would rather control a market like Americans do. America trades with the rest of the world, what? Not more than 15%. Everything they do is within the country. We can do the same. If we build our infrastructure, the road, the delivery, it takes, I think, Ghana, to export from Ghana, it takes about 8 days. To export from Morocco, it takes half a day. Now, you compare that to a Ghanaian business trying to export. So I want us to look where we are in our language. Stay there and pee where you are and it will form up. So let's do that and take advantage of our economy. Because we know the terrain, we know the people, we know their taste, and we have the resources. All we need to do is 3 things: infrastructure, financial resources, and the skill sets, and we should be doing well.
So what you're advising, if I get you right, and let me attempt breaking it down, is that the free market is here. And we shouldn't get too excited about, okay, the free market is here, so I want to export. I want to export and send a lot of goods out. But at the same time, we should look inward. Also try to see how best we can grow what we have an advantage over, and then secure ourselves so that we don't end up importing even from neighboring countries.
Thank you. Now, let me give you an example. Current weather was not kind to us, so a lot of our grains did not come up. So we had dry from up Mampong to Atebubu and all. The grains didn't come up. We didn't harvest well. We're going to import. That's an emergency point. But going forward, we should find ways to have an aggregation of these resources in storage facilities that will be released immediately. We see that the weather was not kind to the harvesting of those products. And as I said, if you're in a household, you and your family, you do certain business, you want your children to have a full bowl of what you do before you go out to sell.
Yeah.
If you don't, and you take it all to sell, your children and your wife will be starving. So let's look at it from that simple formula. How do Ghanaians live? What do they need? Do we have them? No. We have the basics. Can we add value and give it to them so that anybody coming, we're not going to be scared that the Chinese are coming, the Kenyans are coming, the South Africans are coming. No, we're not going to be scared of that because we have prepared ourselves adequately. Come if you want. Because we also have the low cost of money, we have the technical skills, we have the infrastructure, delivery of things from one end to the other. You have about 52 stopping points from Wa to Keita. Why? Do we need that? You get stopped by almost every Tom, Dick, and Harry.
Talking about the barriers?
The barriers. These things, it affects us as much as it affects people coming in. It affects us more than anybody else. So do we need them? If we need, do we have a better way of doing those kind of barriers without the delays?
So we should try and put away the impediments to trade and all of that. And the advice I'm getting from you is that if we don't do this, that's when we have to be scared, because then you will have Burkina Faso dumping tomatoes on you.
No, don't dump in. They're taking advantage.
They will take advantage of your market and bring the tomatoes in. And they will take advantage and bring the onions in, even though just at your backyard, you could have produced the tomatoes. You could have produced the onions.
And their cost of money of doing that is lower. Their transportation days to transfer from one end to the other is lower.
Yeah.
And the technical skills that they have is higher. There's a report that World Bank gets that Ghana needs to do a restructuring of our economy. From agriculture, from the infrastructure, from others, that we need to diversify. Diversification is not going to create what is not there. Diversification is giving credence and giving extra effort on other parts that you have, but you're not looking. You know, the emphasis on cocoa and gold, yes, it's there, but what else can we add value to? We need the roads. We need, look, talking about roads, from one end to the other, forever. How come we have not done the road network, 3 lanes from Takoradi to Accra to Kumasi and back to Takoradi, 6 lanes? What is wrong with that? It's going to cost money, but we're going to yield the results so far as taxes to pay for it, so far as the delivery of the economy through those systems. So that infrastructure availability is critical for us to be able to compete. Other than that, we be talking about it, and not be able to do what we need to do.
Nana, do you foresee, though, that from January 1 heading upwards, we are likely to see we are likely to be overwhelmed by folks who are going for products from outside and seeking to import a lot more, because now they feel the market is open. So a lot of our women folks will be struggling and going up the Burkina way to bring a lot of onions. The same will be happening here. A lot of red oil will be flying from the Aflao border from Togo because there's a free flow. Do you foresee that kind of overwhelming trade?
I don't foresee overnight overwhelming trade from our neighbors. Ghana's competitiveness compared to our neighbors is that we don't do much so far as our livelihoods are concerned. As you said, the red oil from this side, the tomato and onions from the other side, and all. So, but it's not going to come overnight. The same Ghanaians are now going to cross the border and bring it for their selfish interest, but they're business people, they have to make money. The economy itself, Ghanaian businesses are mostly individuals. And the individual businesses don't have that much capacity, technical skills and resource availability and all. So we need to package them. We need to incentivize businesses that, hey, Sami and Nana, please, you are in this industry. We want to, put you together, make a partnership on that contract and all, and then support you with the technical competencies and the resources to be able to compete. If we don't do these things and we leave it to the individual businesses, Ghana is one of the leading countries where individuals go into business more than anything else. But their businesses are so minuscule, they virtually don't make an impact. The income from their businesses, very small. The resources and the benefits, no health benefits, no pension schemes, those kind of things are affecting Ghanaian businesses. So at the end of the day, our income stream is very low. So unless we make the catalytic efforts to bring these guys together, make sure that they have the resources, they have the technical skills, we have a CSIR with technical competency across board in almost everything. We should be able to influence their engagement with the private sector to make sure that they would be able to compete with the rest of the world coming into our country.
I will come to you shortly. I'm going to, in the course of the holidays, I caught up with His Excellency, the Deputy AU Commissioner, Ambassador Kwate, and he shared a thought on the Nigerian border opening. Let me just bring that to you, just about a minute of what he had to tell us quickly, and then we'll get back to you again.
Nigeria was slow even in signing up to this agreement, even though all the negotiations were led by an eminent Nigerian. Nigerian Labour is a very strong organization, as well as the Organization of Businessmen. And they had images of Nigeria becoming a dumping ground for all kinds of goods from all kinds of places. And this they wanted to prevent. But I believe that Nigeria, as the industrial giant, which has the greatest in West Africa in terms of productive capacity, probably has the potential to benefit most. And it is beginning to realize this. So they sign up to this. They recognize the futility of an autarkic economy with closed borders. And that is what has led Nigeria to open itself up. Nigeria is a big country. Nigeria has a population of over 100 and something million. So Nigeria can afford to do that. Nigeria is self-sufficient. But Nigeria will gain more if it's open. East Africa already has an open East African economy. SADC already has an open customs union. So the lessons are clear that the more open you are, the more prosperous you'll be. There may be gainers and losers, but that's only in the interim. And the free trade agreement makes room for compensation for initial losses by states who open up too quickly. Dr. Benito Raima of a bank in Nigeria has even offered to facilitate some of these exchanges to make up for losses, and even proposed a situation where each country can make its payments in local currency and they will underwrite all that. So really, eventually, it's a win-win for Africa.
So that was Ambassador Korte, Ghana's own, and he's the deputy chair of the African Union. We caught up with him over the weekend, and then that was his thought on Nigeria. But based on that, and we talked extensively last week about Nigeria, we had their head of trade with us and all that. But on the back of that, I also heard that, and I want to get your understanding from this, if indeed the party states, if you know that party states have publicized, for instance, or published their tariff offers, unless the tariff offers
is zero tariff.
Is zero tariff for all the 90?
All the 90% of the tariff structure that had been liberalized is zero.
Zero. So we don't need the countries, party states to make them known to us.
No. I mean, if somebody
regardless
coming
of the
from
product
Kenya,
that I'm dealing in.
Yeah, no, the government will publish that the government has selected 90% of our economy of the tariff lines, and not 90% of the value. It's 90% of the tariff lines.
Yes.
Government says it's open.
Okay.
So anybody bringing any product within that 90% comes in free tariff.
I see.
Okay. Now, the other side of the coin is these were resources going to government.
Yeah.
Now that is being forgiven, and government is not going to get that. How is government going to make its money? Number one, previously, government taxes or income taxes on the private sector to government, the revenues were about 13, 14, or just recently I had 16, which I doubt. But even if it's 16% of GDP, not enough to government. So how are they going to make up now that the tariffs are gone? Who's going to pay? The domestic private sector, whose capacity is almost zero. So we have to find ways that government itself will be resourced adequately. Government itself will also partner with the private sector to create the resource capacity to generate the income stream that private sector are now going to pay as taxes. The Private Enterprise Federation, within the next few weeks, is also going to publish a 2-year research on the tax regime, income tax regime or structure in Ghana, which we find that is affecting most of our businesses. I said earlier that most of our businesses are individual private sector businesses, standalone, that they don't do much. But they have one shoe face or 25% income tax on whatever they create. So we have reviewed that, and we come up with kind of a structured, what we call tier tax system. If your income is maybe less than 90,000 or your turnover is maybe less than 100,000, let's say you pay only 2,000 a year, or what it may be agreed to. If you move to 3% or 5% more of the turnover between 200,000 to 500,000, you may pay 2%. Because you see, people set up businesses to make money.
Yeah.
They don't set up business to pay taxes.
Of course.
So once they're making money, then it's a responsibility as part of the citizen requirement to pay taxes.
But my thing is, how certain are you that government will pass on the shortfall from the revenue that it would have made from the tariffs to the local private sector? I mean, it may choose to have different means of making that revenue.
Well, I would love to see the different means that government has.
But that's an engagement. It would have been nice if you had with
the
government.
The different means for government to create revenue. Even now, the revenue is not enough. So once
you lose the one from
a percentage is going away because of the CFTA, then obviously there's a downward trend insofar as revenue mobilization on the part of government. So that is another part that we have to sit still. We have to sit together, find ways that government, because we need a strong government.
Yeah.
But
that discussion had not been had, as far as you're concerned. You haven't engaged government at
not
that
adequately.
level.
It has not been explored adequately. That's one of the reasons why the Federation went and did the tax research, and we engaged Parliament both sides of the aisle, they were all enthusiastic about that, and we engaged the ministry. So come next year, the government side has also done its homework, supported by the same Usiwa. We have done our research, and we're now going to sit together and see how we marry that to affect impact on businesses so the businesses grow.
Yeah.
Key word. Because once they grow, what happens? They expand, they create jobs and wealth, and things become better. But if they don't grow and they stand still, and most of our businesses are standing still, they're not moving an inch.
Yeah. This is revealing. This aspect is revealing. So we don't want to take a lot of things for granted. That free market is here, and so everybody jumping and embracing and all of that. But some of these implications, as you mentioned, that once government loses the shortfall from taxes from the
revenue,
tariffs, the revenue from the tariffs, it may
it has to recoup the money.
It has to be recouped somewhere, and probably look up to the local.
Not probably.
You are so sure that it will come from
because
the local.
Other than going to borrow,
then,
what else other sources does the government
then
have?
Then people would be wondering, so are we gaining or we are losing out of this free market thing?
Oh, we can gain a lot if we do our homework. We can gain tremendously.
And it's a homework that you haven't seen all of us doing at the moment.
The homework that will lead to the policy framework that will allow us to say, okay, the emphasis is on manufacturing of ABC because there's a continuous market on this side. There's opportunity on the other side that we're not taking advantage. Even where Ghana is number one in the trading block within the continent, the income coming from that is about $100,000. So we should be able to stretch. We should be able to provide the directive on the part of the policy framework is very critical. And we're hoping that the president-elect will now turn his eyes on the private sector, what they can do to make Ghanaian economy worth living in. Because the private sector is the institution.
He's always been saying engine of...
Oh, that language, I don't know, there's so many bad engines around, so I'm not talking about engines. I'm talking about opportunity.
It's possible that this is a bad engine. So far, the ones it's been touched is a bad engine.
I wouldn't say this one is a bad engine. It's an engine that needs to be oiled out and redesigned and maybe create some new parts and arteries.
Overhaul the whole engine.
Possible. But we need the resources. Yeah. We need the capacity. We need the policy framework. We need this infrastructure. Moving from one area to the other in Ghana, it takes forever.
Yeah.
And you're burning what? Gas at cost. So we should be looking at policy framework that impact on these things. Yeah.
Open up the urban space and all of that, allow mobility to be easy and all that. So let me pick the piece on that's reviewing the year 2020 real quick. When we come back, we'll summarize with Nana in the studio. If you're a business person, you may also want to share your thoughts with us, and we will definitely read them and share them with the rest of the world. The WhatsApp number is 055-901-9177, 055-901-9177. We'll be back right now.
The year 2020 has been very eventful in all sectors globally, and Ghana's ports and maritime industry was no exception. Like many facets of global businesses, the coronavirus pandemic and its associated impacts and adjustments were the highlights of 2020. Proud to the rearing of the ugly head of the COVID-19 pandemic in Ghana, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority acquired and commissioned 3 new tugboats as part of its strategies to attract larger vessels and enhance the turnaround time of vessels at the port of Tema in late January. With the caution to prevent the importation and spread of the coronavirus into Ghana, GPHA, in collaboration with the Port Health Unit of the Ghana Health Service, began intensive sensitization of the port community and its stakeholders in January, prior to Ghana recording its first case of the virus in March 2020. The Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority on Monday, 10th February 2020, rolled out an electronic toll payment system which has since facilitated trade while reducing the time spent in queues during the manual payment of tolls. Also in February, due to the admitted lack of coordination between the veterinary services, FDA and customs, 440-footer containers of salmonella-infested gizzard imported into the country made it out of the port of Ghana onto the Ghanaian market. And on Wednesday, 4th March 2020, a joint team comprising the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, veterinary services, GPH intelligence, port health services, national security, Bureau of National Investigations, and other stakeholders in the import and export chain destroyed some recovered infested Salmonella gizzard at the Kpong dumping site. In March, the Health Services Department of both the Port of Tema and Takoradi, in conjunction with Port Health, resumed their efforts to curtail any importation and spread of COVID-19 through Ghana's ports. A COVID-19 committee was set up which produced significant guidelines for Ghana's ports. 2 separate holding areas designated for the preliminary treatment of potential cases were set up in addition to other precautionary measures. In April 2020, the Ports Management Association of West and Central Africa, PIMWACA, directed in a letter that port platforms cannot shut down in the wake of the coronavirus crisis due to the critical needs of cargoes to move, especially goods such as pharmaceuticals and foods, and also the larger interest of sustaining economies. PIMWACA therefore set out guidelines to be implemented in its member ports across all Western and Central African ports. The Port of Takoradi in March undertook a specialized operation to unload some ocean-based machinery onto a heavy load carrier known as Combi Dock 1 for departure to Taiwan. In April, Ghanaians observed a period of restricted movements in the Greater Accra region and some areas of the Ashanti region after an announcement by the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. But some areas of work, including the port, were exempted from this restriction, as the port directed that cargoes could move freely even through Ghana's borders and ports. As a result, Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority and Customs introduced COVID-19 permit requirements to ensure that the number of port users during the movement restrictions were reduced. In April, due to COVID-19 measures adopted by banks in the country, long queues characterized the banking area of the Tema Long Room, where the banks accepting payment of duties operated with limited staff at the port. Another factor which also contributed to the long queues is the fact that the shipping lines were refusing to accept cash payment in their various offices, contrary to the status quo. The Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority subsequently waived all storage and rent charges considered as time-related penalties in the cargo clearance processes at its Golden Jubilee and transit terminals, resulting from the COVID-19-induced restrictions on movement of persons. Some shipping lines like Grimaldi, Pearl, and Maersk Line also waived demurrage charges for the period between 30th March to 19th April 2020. Again in April, government officially handed over the site for the construction of the Jamestown Fishing Harbour, which was expected to be completed in 32 months, to the Chinese engineers and contractors. Another major project in the month of June was that the President of the Republic assented to the bill to ban the importation of salvage vehicles and thus became law from 30th April 2019, pending implementation 6 months after the President's assent. Also in June, despite the interruption of the COVID-19 on the port's activities, the new Integrated Customs Management System, ICUMS, managed by the Ghana Link Services, was rolled out at the Port of Tema, which is the largest revenue collection point of Ghana's Revenue Authority, replacing previous vendors GCNet and West Blue Consulting. Also, the government of Ghana, represented by the Ghana Railways Development Authority, signed a contract with Amandi Holdings Limited for the construction of sections of the Western Rail Line, constituting 102 kilometers of continuous single-track railway line worth $560 million between the port of Takoradi and Huni Valley. Again, the Ghana-flagged tuna purse seine vessel called Panofi Frontier that was hijacked by suspected Nigerian pirates in Benin waters, where 6 crew members, including 5 Koreans and a Ghanaian cook called Kofi Opuni on board the vessel, were abducted by pirates. Still in June, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority sealed a contract with a consulting services company from Hamburg, Germany, for the execution of feasibility studies for the construction of the port of Keta. In July, the Chief of Staff, Honorable Akosua Fremont Osei Opare, in a letter dated 3rd July 2020 and signed by the President, directed that effective July 2020.
Okay, so that directive said that effective July 1st, all government agencies should purchase their vehicles from locally manufactured products. So that was it. The continuation, I'm sure, will come if you tune into GH1 tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. on GTV at 8:30 p.m. on Wednesday, and probably on Metro again tomorrow, God willing. So, Nana, as we get into 2021 January, just about 5 days away, barely, what would be the takeoff that you expect from one government to the private sector, businesses, and then us as people? How do we embrace this new market?
Okay, as people, Ghanaians have a tendency to prefer foreign products. Not necessarily because it's better, but it makes them feel better about themselves.
It makes them feel better, not
Yes.
because the items are better.
No, because you see, I got this from
London.
London.
It's next.
Somebody is going to bring a cake for a party in Ghana. The cake is coming from London. Well, people have choices if they can afford. But patronage of local businesses, local products, is something that I think Ghanaians should learn to cultivate, in the sense that they also come around because this sponsoring or they patronizing your product whilst you patronizing the foreign. So we should be able to, there must be equilibrium in that kind of angle.
Quality will also be a factor.
But the other point that I always stress, the average person has limited financial resources. So the cost of money, the cost of doing business, the cost of the product is possibly outside the reach of their pocket, where the bootleg coming from or the fake ones coming from foreign are the cheaper models that they make do with it. So there's education on both sides of the aisle. But then the cost of doing business have to be reduced. Let me give you from January to July, the policy rate, Bank of Ghana policy rate was an average of 14.5. The lending rate by the banking institutions, and they're private sector businesses, they have investors who also have to get returns for their investment. That was 21.7, 21.3. The average margin of 680 basis points from the policy rate and the lending rate. Now, from July to December, to October, where we have the data, is 771 basis points. Now, obviously, we're not going to compete with the foreign business that cost of money is just about 3% when average Ghanaian is borrowing at 26%. There must be, and this is a straight advice to the policymakers going forward from July 1st, there must be January 1st, alternate resource mobilization locally, meaning through the pension schemes, through the third-year pension, through the insurance industry. That is where most of our long-term monies come from. We don't have that. Little Botswana, a small country with about 2 million people, they have almost about 6 billion in pension schemes. Now, if that is competing with the financial resources in the banking institutions, they will take the first precedent because people will go to them and not go to the banking sector. So the capital mobilization, and I'm requesting that the powers that come into the government next week or after January, they should appoint one person or committee in charge of capital mobilization within Ghana. Other than that, our private sector are going to continue to do injurious business because of the injurious nature of our lending rates.
Thank you, Nana. Nana Osei Bonsuze, Chief Executive Officer of Private Enterprise Federation. He is also chair of quite a number of boards, including that of the Food Research, CSIR, Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, and a host of others. He's been my guest. We've been reviewing the year 2020 when it comes to business, particularly the ports and maritime trade or international trade, and trying to see how we can position ourselves getting into the year 2021. Starting January in particular, because that's when we have the entire continent commencing free trade in that big and the largest 1.2 million market. Thank you for watching.